Good afternoon. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, hi, good
Am I
afternoon.
audible?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
are not audible, Devji.
Hello, am I audible? Hello,
Sometimes you are audible, sometimes you are not.
hello, am I audible now?
Yes, now you are audible. Yeah. Okay, let's wait for panel to join via online. Until
Okay,
then, you can turn off the camera. Once panel joins, you can turn on the camera.
okay, sir. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm doing good. What about you?
Yeah, I'm also doing good. Thank you. One second. Okay. Uh, let's just start with a little bit introduction about yourself and explaining your current project and your role.
Yeah, so basically, I'm having around 6.10 years of experience in IT sector, and in the current
Can
company.
you can you switch on the video?
Okay, so is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Quite.
I'm having around 6.10 years of experience in IT sector, and current organization I'm having around 3 years of experience. So yeah, current client which I'm working with tech stacks like Spring JPA, Microservices, and prior to that, actually I worked with other clients like HSBC and Visa. So they are also work with REST APIs. So basically, I worked upon banking and financial domain projects. So with respect to payment acknowledgement, matching and approval, so those payment related thing I've worked. And prior to that, I worked with CGI. So there I've worked with their own product. So in that we have made use of tech stacks like Spring JPA, microservices. Yeah. And prior to that, I was working in one startup.
So, what was your role in current project?
Yeah, so in the current project, basically the requirement which was used to come from the client side to the manager used to distribute to us, and then based upon the user stories which are assigned, we are just picking that up and then start implementing the stuffs which were assigned. And then after implementing, we are just writing the unit test cases and testing it end to end, like how it is working and all, if it is meeting the client's expectations and all. And then if everything works fine, then we are integrating it with the client's repository, and then it's going for further deployment process.
Great. Yep. Uh, what are the collections you have used in your project?
Yeah, we have basically made use of list, set, map. This basically we have made use of.
Okay. Which scenario you have used map in your current project?
We can make use of map when we have to map the data from one entity to another entity. So let's suppose there is one employee, and with one employee I need to find the count of employees whose salary is aligned between a specific range. So in this type of scenarios, we can create a map between employee and the count of those employees. So whenever there is a mapping required, where there is end-to-end connection will be there, because if we are going to another step, the prior data will get lost. So we have to store the data in the form of key value pair. So in that scenario, map will be required.
Okay. What is hashing and rehashing in hash map?
uh, Hashing is basically with the help of hashing, the key finds the index actually where it will lie. So it will go to the hashing functionality within which, if it goes, it will calculate the 16-bit integer value of the hash code, and then it will calculate the mod of with the size of the hash map, because that 16-bit integer will not be sufficient enough to put into that bucket, because the size ranges between 0 to 6 0 to 15 only. So we are calculating the index, and then we are putting into that specified bucket. Then rehashing means whenever there is a limit reached. So whenever in the case of hash collision, we'll be seeing like multiple keys can have the same index. So in that scenario, it will lie into the same bucket. So it will create a like list of nodes in the form of linked list. So after reaching a particular threshold, then after reaching a particular endpoint, like it will not be able to extend further. So in that scenario, it will create a rehashing, so that again it will search for that particular key can lie at a different index, different bucket basically. So it may change its bucket location after rehashing. So this is the thing.
Okay, okay. And what is the purpose of using design patterns in application? What
Uh,
kind of problem basically it solves?
Yeah, with the help of design pattern, basically we simplify the complex problems so that it becomes understandable to user. So it depends upon the use cases basically. So whenever we need to create a kind of a pattern in which we need to create one single instance at any given point of time, then we will go for singleton. So whenever there is a requirement of creating the object, so in that scenario, creational design pattern will be used. Whenever there is a requirement to do some changes in the behavior, then we will go for behavioral design pattern. And when there is structural change required, we will go for structural design pattern. So based upon the requirement, we need to choose design patterns.
Okay. Builder design pattern.
Uh, yeah, it's a form of a creational design pattern, and it resolves the issue of factory design pattern. Basically, when we create a constructor in case of factory design pattern, we need to remember like from the initial till last field, what all fields are initialized in constructor. We should maintain the order. But in case of builder design pattern, this is not the case. So we can create our own builder class, and then with the help of build method, we can build it, and then whatever field you want to build, you can call that particular field value directly. So there is no order required to be maintained.
Okay. And what are the solid principles in Java?
Yeah, so solid principles are of various types. First is like S, so it is a single responsibility principle. So one class will hold only one set of responsibility. It should not hold multiple functionalities in one particular class. So that is single responsibility principle. So O means open for extension, close for modification. So in that scenario, we should not modify the existing code base, whatever it has been written and put into production basically. So after going to production, or after code commit final is there, then if there is any requirement come or some issue came, then in that scenario we can create one class or interface, we can extend that, and then we can create our own logic in that separate package. Like that we can make use of. So open close principle will be there. Then there is a list of substitution principle. So with the help of that, there will be like two classes where A is let's suppose A is superclass and B is subclass. Then in that scenario, the subclass properties can be replaced with the superclass properties, and then after replacing that, it should behave properly. So that is a list of substitution. Then there's interface segregation principle. In that scenario, like interface needs to be segregated among the clients, such that each client will be making full use of the functionalities written in that interface. So let's suppose there is an example of a restaurant. So a restaurant may have different functionalities like making food, serving food, then cleaning tables, so those type of things. So if client one focuses upon just preparing food and using different ingredients, then he should not focus upon cleaning and stuff. So we can segregate interfaces based upon client's requirements. So that is interface segregation. And dependency inversion means the dependencies should get inverted. So the best example is the Spring Bean container. So in that, there is an inversion of control where Spring container is creating the object for us, rather than we are creating the object.
Okay. Are you aware of Java 17 new features?
Yeah, few features I know.
What is sealed classes?
So if we are making a class as sealed, I think it will become immutable, and then it the particular class will other class will have the freedom, like if they want to extend the interface and override a particular method or not. So so there will be like a freedom for the class. So there will be not a compulsion that we need to override that method if it is not required.
And what is records?
Uh, Records. It's also a form of field which is used with an interface. So it is used with interface. So uh, with records, we can make the entire interface to be working as immutable, so that it won't be extended by other classes, and it will let subclass to extend the property and implement the change.
Okay. Are you aware of text block feature?
Text block. Text block.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not aware of it as of now.
Uh, Pattern matching for instance of.
Pattern matching. I think it's a specific class that we uh, import the package for that, and then uh, there is certain methods within that. With the help of that, like matchers are there. There's certain methods with the help of that we are passing the rejects pattern, and based on that pattern we will validate a particular set of strings or numbers. So for basically pattern
Okay.
matching we can use.
What is the default method in Java 8 and why it is required?
Yeah, basically when previously what happened, so we were having only abstract methods. So whenever there will be multiple classes implementing the interface, and we are adding another method into the interface, then it will disturb the entire class, because all the classes implementing that interface needs to override that method, irrespective of the fact that it is required by all the classes or not. So to resolve that problem, default method came into picture. So default method is a form of concrete method which has been added into interface, so that other classes, the classes which needs to override that method and write some business logic of their own, that class only can implement and override. Otherwise, other classes may or may not override depending upon their need.
Okay. What is the difference between collections and stream API?
Okay, so collections, basically it's a framework, and a stream is an API which works upon collection. And collection contains a different set of interfaces like list, queue, set interfaces. And a stream is having certain set of terminal and intermediate operation, and it basically works upon the collection interfaces, like implementation classes of the collection interfaces, like array list, hash set. So yeah, so in stream basically it is having internal operations which are lazily loaded. Until and unless we are writing the terminal operation methods, the intermediate operations will not get executed. So but in case of list, as soon as we add, it will get added into the collection data, collection object.
What is flat map?
The flat map is basically used for flattening the map, so that all the data which has been put across, segregated across different lists, it can be put in a simple list, in one single list. So let's suppose I'm taking example like array list dot add. So we are adding one, and then we are adding, like, let's suppose list of list is there. Then again a set of new array list has been created, considering it is having employee ID, employee name. So we can have a flat map basically to flatten it, and all data can be put into one single list.
Okay. I have pinged in chat. Can you copy paste on notepad and share your screen?
Can you see my screen?
Yes. So I have one input array
Hmm?
which contains a few elements, right? 2, 4, 6, like that. And if you observe the output, if number is divisible by 3, then it output having a square of it, right? So 2 4 is not divisible by 3, so it's same 2 4. 6 is divisible by 3, so it's 36. Again 8 2 10 4 is not divisible, so it is same. 12 is divisible by 3, so it's 12 into 12 144. And again 6 is divisible by 3, so 36. So can you write program using Java Stream API to give me this output?
Okay.
Are you done?
Yes.
Can you explain?
Yeah, I'm doing stream on current array. Okay. So here you can
Hmm.
pass, and then basically we are doing the mapping of it. I'm taking the input one by one because map takes functional interface. So basically it takes the input and then returns the output based upon the input. So here I'm taking the input here, and then we are checking with modulus of 3 if it is 0 or not. So if remainder is 0, that means it's divisible by 3. So we are doing multiplying the same value twice, or else we are returning the same value. So then we are collecting the final data into a list and then printing it.
Okay. I have pinged another one in the chat. Can you open this? So I have one employee class
Hmm?
with ID, name, gender, and department.
Okay.
Okay. assume I have a list of employees,
Mm.
and employee maybe belongs to department like HR, R&D, IT, and finance. Okay, so I want output like in each department how many employees are there. So can you write the logic to give me the map of department and number of employees in that department using Stream API?
Map of
So basically, it will return map of string, right? Department and then number of count
amount of employees.
employees. Yep. For example, you see, right? Example, HR department 10 employees, R&D 20 employees, IT 5.
Okay. They do something like this.
Yeah. Can you explain what it is doing?
Yeah, I'm taking the list of employees, I'm streaming on it, then I'm grouping it based upon the department. So each and every department it will group, and then based upon the grouping, it will count the set of employees present in that particular group.
Okay, looks good. What is difference between Spring IOC and dependency injection?
Yeah. So Spring IOC basically it's like an inversion of control. So it basically inverts the dependency process to the Spring container so that we are not creating the object. And dependency injection is basically it implements the Spring IOC process to do the dependency of those beans at a runtime as and when where it is auto wired, where it is required.
Okay. How many ways, like what are the different ways we can inject dependencies?
Uh, we can inject based upon like setter based dependency injection is there, then constructor based dependency injection is there, then field based dependency injection is there, and then there is something called circular dependencies also.
Uh, Why is field injection not recommended?
uh, because it works on a certain set of fields, and the field values might get changed if there are like multiple threads working, and then it is a chance there is a chance that it may change the content of the field at runtime. So
Mhm. What is the difference between Spring MVC and Spring Boot?
yeah, Spring Boot provides basically a rapid application development process. Where actually we don't have to manually configure all the dependencies. Rather, it will provide auto configuration feature, and it automatically configures all the dependencies present in the class path. Whereas with respect to Spring MVC, we need to provide our own configuration, and we need to invest a lot of time in configuring all sort of things, and for how what all things needs to be mapped, what all dependency needs to be injected, everything, and standalone as such file also needs to be implemented. And Spring Boot basically has is having their own internal Tomcat server, which makes it more lightweight, and it becomes more flexible for users because they don't need to explicitly configure Tomcat with standalone as such configurations. So that is not the case with Spring MVC. Yeah.
Okay. And what is the difference between JP and Hibernate?
Okay, so Hibernate is a ORM framework which actually maps the entity field values with the database columns, and JPA is nothing but a specification which internally contains interfaces and annotations, and it provides the medium through which Hibernate queries are being executed internally. So JPA internally doesn't run, but internally it uses Hibernate query, which internally runs the query and execute the process. So this is the way it works.
Okay. Is it mandatory to use service repository annotations over service and repository classes?
uh, @service can be replaced with @component. There will be no issue, but for controller and repository it will create an issue. For normal functionality of database saving, insertion, updation, it will not create issue, but let's suppose there is some issue coming or some exception coming, then some in that scenario like data access exception might come. So if you are writing at that repository, then it provides specific feature like those kind of exception can be handled at the DAO layer, so it has the specific functionality to handle those type of exception. So if you are replacing with at that component, then it might not work in such certain scenarios. And yeah, these two they have asked.
Okay. What are the different annotations you have used in Spring Boot application?
Yeah, first of all, it is Accelerate Spring Boot application is there, which is the main entry point, where it contains Accelerate configuration, Accelerate enable auto configuration, and component scan annotations. Then from controller layer, there is Accelerate REST controller present, which contains Accelerate controller and response body annotations. Then, if we are going inside the controller methods, it contains different set of mappings like get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, delete mapping, and within the parameters we can have like request body, path variable, request param, those things can be added. And then at the other layer, service layer repository, we can have added service, added repository. And then for auto wiring, we can use added auto wired annotation. And for entities, we can make use of added entity, added table, and added id for primary key mapping. So those things.
Okay. How Spring Boot handle database connection?
Yeah, so in that scenario, we need to provide configuration in the application.yaml file. So we need to provide Spring Boot.data source dot URL or Spring Boot.data source dot username or password. Then we have to provide those things along with port number and all, so that it identifies like which particular database you are using. So corresponding to that host number, port name, and URL will be added, and then it will map it with the current project.
Uh, if you want to configure multiple database with that application, how we will do that?
Yeah, so for that, we can create multiple properties file, multiple YAML files for that, containing a certain set of DB features in that, like different YAML file for different database configurations. And then we can have profiling for that, so that it allows for different DB for different profiles. Then we can have entity manager factory implemented class, so that we can provide a configuration like which particular database will be used for which particular operation. So different set of services will make use of different databases. So we have to provide the configuration for that. And yeah, like this we can create.
You told we will create different properties file and use profiling, right? But at the same time, I want to use in same profile. For example, day profile only. I want to use two database. Like maybe we have different domain functionality, and I want to segregate those into different database. But I same database I want to connect with 2DB.
Mhm. Okay.
How we will do?
Yeah, so we can have accurate profile, same data can be added for both the services. And then we need to make changes in the configuration logic, so that it will allow, basically in a constructor we can write the logic to get the data. And then uh, we have to fetch the data from the particular database, so we have to provide entity manager factory implementation for that.
Okay. What is Spring security and how does it works?
Spring Security actually adds us a layer of protection for our project basically. So for Spring Security, we can have a dependency in the POM file, like Spring Security we can add. And then as soon as we add the Spring Security and we reload the application and deploy the project, then we'll see like it will ask username and password. It will not allow the URL to access to that particular endpoint. So basically, what it happens. So whenever we are hitting with a particular token, so authentication and authorization works internally. So during the authentication process, we are generating the like public access token key gets generated, and with the data of username and password which we are sending, we will send it back to the API gateway, and from there actually it will go to the authentication server. The authentication server basically it generates a certain set of token key. So the token key which is generated by the authentication server, it matches with the public access token key which generated at the beginning. So if both the token keys matches, then it identifies that it's the same user. The user is authenticated, and then it allows it to go to the front end controller, and from there it goes to the particular endpoint flow. So like this, the authentication process works. And then there's a authorization process occurs after that. So it basically authorizes like which particular user is authorized to visit that particular endpoint. So there may be user role, there may be admin role. So we are providing the role based access to the specific users based upon their endpoints. So we have to write specific configuration class for that, and we have to enable web security configuration annotation. And then we have to extend web security configuration adapter, and we have to override the configure method. There we have to provide the security role based security access. So like that we can provide.
You told wave configure adapter, right?
Yeah.
Which Spring Boot version you are using?
3.0.x.
Then it's already deprecated, right, in 2.7 itself.
Yeah, yeah.
So did you change that implementation to use the latest implementation, or are you aware of how to do?
We haven't changed basically, so we are using that way only as of now. We are going to change, but still we haven't changed.
If I want to enable OAuth, right, using any third party authentication provider like Azure Cloud or maybe Gmail, how we can do that?
What? Sorry, I'm not aware of what as of now.
Okay, okay. Are you aware of actuators in Spring Boot?
Yeah, so basically with help of actuator, we are checking the health metrics of that particular REST endpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So there can be multiple set of URLs with help of which we can check the health status. So we are passing the URL. Along with that, if we are passing slash health, it will give the status health of that particular REST endpoint. So if it is up, that means it's fine. If it is down, that means there is an issue with that endpoint. Like that, we can check the status. Then there are multiple types of URLs that can be passed, like slash env to check the environment properties. Then there are slash beans to check for number of beans available. So
Okay. How to read different properties in Spring Boot application?
uh, so to read different properties, we can have at the rate value annotation, and there we can have like a dollar, and we can pass the property key over there, and then we can provide a field value, and then after that we can make use of that in the constructor, and then we can make use of it like that.
Is there any other way?
Okay.
Okay. If I have one scenarios, for example, I have written one scheduler and some expression I have given for a specific time to run. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that time I am using some property file,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there I am specifying the particular day time, that expression. So it will run on that particular time every day, right? But
Okay.
I want to change that property without restarting the applications, right? So how I can achieve that?
So without restarting, we can have Spring Boot Dev tool annotation, Spring Boot Dev tool dependency implemented in the POM file. If we add that dependency, it will reload it automatically.
I mean, like, we don't want to change in any applications, right? Like we will deploy, right? So I will have a war file or jar file in container, right? So how we will change that property?
Okay. So I think we can add it at a runtime, and we can have certain commands to pass at runtime so that it doesn't, so that we don't have to change it again.
Have you heard about cloud config servers?
I've heard of it, but I haven't used it much.
Okay, no issues. What is cascading in Hibernate JPA?
Uh, Cascading means there can be uh, multiple set of features that can be handled together. So if one of the services gets failed, there can be a cascading failure across the other services as well.
What are the different cascade types are there?
Uh, Cascade is cascade equal to cascade type dot all. Then there is
Mhm.
cascade. I'm not remembering as of now. Which type
Okay.
am
What is the difference between sorted and ordered collection in Hibernate?
sorted and ordered collections. Okay. So if it is ordered, so it will maintain the insertion order, how we have inserted it into a particular collection. And sorted means basically it will sort the set of records which has been set in that particular collection, like list or set.
Are you sure or just guessing by the name?
Like there is a method like arraylist.stream.sorted. So it sorts the data based upon ascending order or natural default natural sorting order. And
Okay. I have pinged in chat. Can you open that?
yeah, I've opened it.
Can you share your screen? Open this. So I have one employee table with fields, column employee ID, name, department ID. I
Mhm.
have another table address. So address ID, employee ID, right? Foreign key and address type, street, other fields are there.
Mhm.
Okay. So one employee can have multiple address, right? If you see address type, home, office, right? Different types. So basically one to many relation. So can you write an entity uh, where we will be writing that association logic to employee to mapping
Okay, employee and address mapping. Right.
address, correct?
Okay. One employee can have many addresses. Office.
Yeah, so my requirement is I once I save the employee and it should save the address as well. If you want to delete address, then employee, then it should delete the address as well, right? So such relations.
Address type is the office. Address ID. So address type is office, but address ID is different.
Just yeah, correct. So here, for example, if you see address ID will be different, right? This is a just generic
Mhm.
generated ID.
Okay.
So it's employee ID and address ID. You may consider as a composite key, something like that.
Okay.
So one address belongs to, see, it's a generic general address ID, right? So one employee, for example, if you see second and first row, first and second, right? So employee ID is one. So one employee having home address and office address. Similarly, employee ID 3 having only permanent address.
Mhm.
Employee 4 having only office address.
Okay.
So it can have one or one, basically one to many.
Mhm. Okay.
You can focus only on that particular mapping fields. Ignore other fields, just give me that mapping.
You can do something like this.
Okay. Uh, if you see that tables structure, right? Can you write a query to get count of employees staying on that particular postal code? For example, if you see right postal code 78560078, one employee is there. One 560011, two employees are staying. 781 employees is so two employees are staying on 78 as well. So can you write a or a query to give me that count of employees staying on particular postal code?
Okay. Like this, I can wait.
Okay. What are the important aspects of RESTful web services implementation?
Uh, Important aspects in the sense means what parameters we need
If
to
you are
take.
writing any RESTful web
Mhm.
services, then what are the things you will consider?
First of all, we will think about means what all functionalities we have to implement, and how it can be segregated. Like high level designing, we have to do first, like how it should be segregated across multiple methods in the controller, like how endpoints needs to be segregated. That we need to think first, and then what kind of mappings we need to provide, like if it is like insertion or save or update, what kind of operation. So based upon that, we will provide the mapping annotation for that. Then we will be seeing like what exactly the value is being passed in the URL. Like if we are passing dynamic variables, then it is like we can have path variable. If it is like in the form of key value pair, we can have request parameter. So like this we can think of.
Okay.
And so
If you want to implement pagination and sorting, how you can do in Spring Boot Data JPA?
yeah, in the interface layer, actually in the repository, we can extend paging and sorting repository basically, and there we can pass that particular table, uh, table data, table name which is being passed, that is Java table name, comma the data type of that primary key that we can pass there, and then in that particular interface we can call the separate methods like find by certain column name and column name and column name, and then we can return it the return type will be of page type. So we will be storing the data in a page, and then after that will be we have to call certain method then. Uh, then we can have a process to have sorted mechanism, like sorted in ascending or descending order. That also we can pass in the parameter, like we want data in ascending or descending order, like that we can do, and store it in the page of that entity.
Okay.
Then we can pass how many data you want in one single page. So that also can pass like 10 records in one page. So that way we can store page
Are
by
you
page.
using any documentation for your APIs? How you are documenting your APIs?
Whatever APIs we have written, actually we are putting it in a Confluence page basically. So we are providing the URLs, and in what scenario it may fail, and what is the result output that may come. So those are things we are maintaining a separate Confluence page for each services basically.
So every time you are changing your API anything, then you are updating the documents as well manually.
Yeah, actually, in our project it all means to do on that only. So actually, it is should be done on Swagger basically to maintain the documentation. But in our project in HSBC, we were told to do it in the Confluence page basically.
Okay. So are you aware of how to integrate Swagger in your application?
Uh, yeah, I think we need to import the package for Swagger. It's swagger.io, and then we can have the annotation over the controller methods basically to add to make it enabled. And then we will be passing like what type of response entity you want within the Swagger. We can pass the status code along with the description, and if that is the URL, then what should be the response? Everything we can mention it over there. Means above the controller class, we can have everything put up in the form of Swagger.
Okay. Uh, are you aware of Docker?
We haven't implemented actually in our project, but Docker is actually containing the set of configurations in them, like the jar configurations or say certain setting configurations. So whenever we are putting it across different systems, then there is a chance that our code may not run on another system. So if we are making use of Docker and putting configuration all, and then we are transferring to another system, then it will work on that system basically if it is related to configuration issues like that.
Okay. And in microservice environment, like multiple microservices are running, right? So how you are communicating with another microservices?
Yeah, so there are two ways basically. First is synchronous and asynchronous. So for synchronous, we can make use of REST template. So we can auto wire that REST template, and then we can make use of exchange method. We can pass the URL, and then we can pass the request DTO that other microservice is accepting, and then we will be getting the response in the form of data in the response entity, and then we can get the body and the status code. So if its status code is 200, okay, and we are getting the body is not empty, then we can proceed ahead with other business logic. So and
Are you
another
aware of Fiend client?
fiend client,
Mhm.
yeah, actually, there's I think a synchronous way of communicating between two microservices. So we haven't made use of fiend client basically in our project.
Okay. And like for example, one microservice is communicating with another microservice,
Mhm.
and other microservice is down, right?
Mhm.
So how you are handling those scenarios?
So there should be a fallback mechanism that needs to be implemented. So for that, there can be a circuit breaker design pattern that needs to be implemented. So in the YAML file, we can have the retry attempts there, like how many times you want to retry. You can have like 3 or 4. Then based upon that, we can implement our logic in the service layer, and then we can check while calling that particular microservice by passing the URL, and then we can check the status of that microservice by calling it again and again. So there can be multiple stage like open, close, and half open. So in that scenario, we can be checking that if the circuit is closed and we are getting the data after first or second attempt, then it is fine. We will be getting the data and storing it in response and return it back. Or else if it is like open and after 3 attempts we are circuit is open and we are not getting the response, so status will be like 400, and then we will be returning the default message to the response like this microservice is down. So like that we can implement.
And what is API gateway?
The API gateway provides a medium of security between the request and the actual endpoint where it actually needs to transfer to. So basically, at the API gateway level, it will verify the token key basically. So what authentication server generates a token key and what public access token key is generated. So it will match that. So if that user is authenticated, then API gateway allow it to move to that particular controller or endpoint.
Okay, got it. Are you writing test cases for your code?
Yes, yes.
What framework you are using?
Mockito framework.
Okay. What is the difference between mock and at the rate of inject mock?
Yeah, with help of added inject mock, we are creating the instance of that particular service class, and iterate mock basically it mocks that particular class, and we are making use of that class to mock the functionalities of that bean. So if we are using service layer class and we are calling the methods, so if we are doing inject mock of that service IMPL class, then internally it is creating the new instance of it, and then we can make use of it to call the service layer method to go through the flow. And if you're using mock on that repository, then we are actually mocking the functionalities. Then we can have mockito.when, then we can have the functionalities in that.
Okay, okay, great. Yeah, Devajit, I am fine from my side. You have any question for me?
Basically, what kind of projects which is having as of now?
So, Emids basically having medical domain projects
Hmm.
and even few financial domain project also we have.
Okay,
And we are looking for one of the banking domain project,
okay.
medical itself. Yep, medical domain itself. So
Hmm.
let's see how it goes.
Okay, so got it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Should you find one suggestion from my side?
Okay,
Uh, Maybe it's not relevant to your project, but be prepared on Java 17.
okay.
Now, current Spring Boot version is very much needed that Java 17. Okay.
Hmm. Yes, yes, yes.
Lot of compilations and other issues you will get.
Okay,
So unless means go through those. Okay, Java
okay,
17
okay,
features it's
okay.
mostly needed.
Hmm.
Even if you are good with Java 21, like should be fine.
Okay,
Brush up yourself. Okay.
okay, got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You can drop. HR will connect you.
Okay, Mr.